Right. Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we are going really deep, all the way back to the ancient Greeks and Romans. We're going to be talking about something called the five common topics of classical thought.
Ooh, that sounds heavy.
It kind of is, right?
Hmm.
But the cool thing is, it's not just ancient history. This stuff is still super relevant today. I mean, we're talking about tools for better thinking, for making better arguments, for understanding the world around us. And honestly, who doesn't want that?
Yeah, I'm in. So, what are these five common topics exactly?
Well, they are. Definition, comparison, circumstance, relation, and testimony. And they were used by, like, all the big thinkers back in the day, philosophers, rhetoricians, you name it. And they're still used today, believe it or not.
Wow, five topics that have stood the test of time. Okay, I'm intrigued. Where do we start?
Well, I've always been kind of obsessed with this idea of definition. I mean, it seems so basic, right? Like, just look it up in the dictionary, done.
Yeah.
But the more you think about it, the more you realize it's not that simple. So what's the classical take on definition? How did they approach it?
Yeah, so the ancients, they weren't satisfied with just like superficial dictionary definitions. They wanted to go deeper, like way deeper.
Okay, how deep are we talking?
Like to the essence of a thing, you know? What are its core characteristics? What's its purpose? What are its limits, even?
Wow, that's intense. Can you give me an example?
Okay, so let's take something like justice. Like a dictionary might say it's fairness.
Yeah, right.
But classically, you dig way deeper. Like, what are the different conceptions of fairness? How does justice work in different situations? What are the gray areas?
Oh, wow. I see what you mean.
You might even compare how different philosophers define justice. Like, how would a utilitarian approach it versus, say, a virtue ethicist?
Oh, that's fascinating. So you're not just defining the word, you're defining the whole concept behind it.
Exactly. And you can do this with anything. Freedom, art, success, anything. It really forces you to think critically.
All right, so we've tackled definition. What's next on our list?
Let's move on to comparison. This one's all about seeing things in a whole new light by, well, comparing them.
Yeah. I love how comparing things can help you see them in a whole new light.
Right. It's like you're mapping out a constellation. You know, by looking at how the stars are positioned relative to each other, you start to see patterns and meaning.
Well, that's a great analogy.
So it is with ideas.
Hmm.
Comparing them helps us understand them better.
Okay, so like if I'm trying to decide whether to buy a new phone or whatever, comparing it to other phones helps me see the pros and cons.
Exactly, but comparison can be even more powerful than that. Like, think about metaphors and similes. Those are comparisons that help us understand complex ideas by relating them to something familiar. Or, historical analogies. They can help us make sense of current events by comparing them to similar situations from the past.
All right, comparison check. What about this circumstance thing? What's that all about?
Well, circumstance reminds us that nothing exists in a vacuum, right? Everything happens in a specific context. To really understand something, we need to consider all the factors, the historical, the social, even the geographical stuff that shaped it.
Okay, I see. So like if you're trying to understand why a certain law was passed, you have to look at the historical context, what was happening in society at the time.
Exactly. Or say we're trying to understand the motivations behind a historical event. Like, let's take the American Revolution. To really get it, we can't just look at the battles and stuff.
Right.
We need to look at the economic situation, the Enlightenment ideas that were floating around at the time, even like the geographical distance between the colonies and England, it all played a role.
That's a really good point. It's like zooming out to get the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, on to number 4. Relation.
Ah, relation.
This one sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Just cause and effect, how things are connected.
Yeah, it's about cause and effect, for sure. But it's also about understanding how ideas are interconnected, how one event leads to another, how concepts build on each other, even how things that seem totally unrelated can be linked in surprising ways.
So it's kind of like a chain reaction. One thing leads to another, which leads to another.
Yeah, exactly. And understanding those connections can help us make better decisions. If you can see how our actions might ripple outward, we can anticipate consequences and make better choices.
Makes sense. All right, last but not least, we've got testimony. And this one feels super relevant today with so much information flying around everywhere.
Right. Testimony is all about being critical, about evaluating your sources.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, first, you got to look at who's speaking. What's their expertise? What are their potential biases?
Right.
And then are there other sources that back up what they're saying? Or are they just, like, out there on their own?
It's like being a fact checker.
Totally. In today's world, we're just bombarded with information. And using the principles of testimony, we can sift through all that noise and hopefully get closer to the truth.
So to recap, we've got definition, which helps us grasp the essence of things, comparison, which illuminates relationships, circumstance, which reveals the context, relation, which connects the dots between cause and effect, and testimony, which empowers us to be critical thinkers and evaluate information. That's a pretty powerful toolkit.
It is, and the best part, this isn't just for academics or philosophers, this is for everyone.
Absolutely. So here's a little challenge for our listeners. How can you apply these tools to a problem you're facing right now? Or maybe to a news story you just read. Give it a try. You might be surprised by what you discover.
And if you want to go even deeper down the rabbit hole, check out some resources like The Art of Manliness, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, or maybe some online courses from Hillsdale College.
Yeah, those are all great places to start. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and tell your friends about the deep dive.
Spread the knowledge. We'll see you next time.
See ya.